Hello, you guys. How are you all? Thank you guys for being here. So, today we are doing another creator interview. This has been pre recorded. They will be pre recorded from now on, so I can put them out as like a little late night hangout with you guys. But I'm really excited because today we have someone that many of you guys, I'm sure you know, but maybe some of you don't. And she is a good friend, a very dear friend of mine, Jenn Lou. Hello, welcome, Jenn.
Hey, how are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much.
I can't believe I haven't done this with you already because I guess because we already do so much together, you know, I just,
Yeah.
and I feel like I know you, but I forget. Not everybody maybe does. So, yeah.
Well, I feel like when we do stuff together, mainly because of my brain and how it works, sometimes I interject like personal situations. So I feel like maybe that's why we haven't done it because I have talked a little bit about certain stuff. So maybe that's why. I don't know.
I don't know either. Well, I did take a break from doing them anyways, but I'm excited to do it because, yeah, maybe there'll even be some little answers I don't expect, you know.
You never know.
You never know. Okay, so this is how we'll start. The first one is a two-part question. And I'm going to read straight from my notebook. It says, I've had the pleasure of getting to know you for a while, but for those who don't, a two-part question. Who is Jenn Lou? And how would you describe your channels? Both of them, actually.
Okay, so who is Jenn Lou? Jenn Lou's me. Um, that's it. That's all. Just me. No, I'm like a 40-something-year-old woman. I got 4 children. I've got 3 grandbabies. Um, I My interests are wide and varied. It can change moment to moment. Something that once interested me 5 minutes ago, at 6 minutes may no longer interest me. I like true crime. I like movies. I like music. I like all kinds of things. And I would describe my first channel, the Ward Case Studies. I would say that's straight true crime. I cover
Yeah.
some open cases, but mainly trials. And I do like documentaries, whatever happened to, or full documentaries of cases, stuff like that. And then my second channel is mainly just, I really haven't done a whole lot on that channel. I've only like covered some of the episodes from Life After Lockup with Gypsy Rose on Lifetime, and I've done like commentary over those episodes. I want to get back to working on that channel. I want to start like making videos about documentaries or shows that I've watched that you should check out, the shows you don't want to check out. Like, I'll waste my time so you don't have to. That's kind of
Yeah.
what I use the second channel for. I just need to do.
Well, I think, I love everything you put out on all of them, but I think that'd be a cool idea because there's a lot of shows I just want a quick review of. I don't want to like spend the time to watch it. Maybe I want to know a little about it first. And, or like, for instance, like the Gypsy show. Everybody wants that information, but not everybody wants to sit through it. Maybe they don't have the streaming service or whatever. So I
Right.
think that's really cool. And then I've said this before, and I know you know this, but it's funny because I found your channel ages and ages ago. Like, um, it was after Watts Island, but not long after. And I used to watch you cover all kinds of trials, like what the honor killings trial. I remember I watched that over there. I
I
didn't
did cover
always,
that one.
sometimes I did, but yeah, I've been watching you for a long time, and I'm glad you're getting back to trials because, yeah, the honor killings. Oh my God, Jenn,
That was a hard trial. That was a really hard trial to cover, especially when he took the stand, because I'm not 100% sure. And this is not shade to the translator, but it didn't feel like when the translator was translating what he was saying, she was just translating it. You, first of all, there's certain things that don't translate from English into other languages. English has, or from other languages into English. English has a lot of colloquialisms that, so do all languages. But I think the part that was really missing out on it is she's not going to repeat the tone that he used. So it doesn't come across the same as when he was actually, testifying to some stuff. So, but it was a really hard, that was a hard trial to cover. Like the material was difficult because of the girls and how long it had been and him being on the run. But I really actually do like covering trials more than I like covering open cases, because the trials where you find out all the things.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And during the open cases, which we're going to talk about, some closed, some open, some we've covered together in a minute, but the open cases, like these people, they sit around, thousands a day watching, like, for instance, Sebastian. I want to ask you about that later, but for Sebastian Rogers, he's a missing teenager out of Tennessee, for those of you who don't know, and his case is very highly trafficked topic on YouTube, I guess is a good way to say it. There's a lot of people who are very interested in him being found, and a lot of people who care a lot. Here's the thing, though, I just don't see a lot of factual information, and that, like, people don't realize that a lot of the stuff you hear during this part of an investigation isn't true anyway. So you're kind of just taking in all of this stuff that's probably not even accurate. So it's tough.
Yeah. Well, I like to try, when there's an open case, I like to try to stick to only the facts that can be verified, like through law enforcement, because I think it's a natural inclination for human beings that when information is missing, that we try to fill in those gaps. But when you're doing that in an open true crime case, especially when it's children, when we fill in those gaps, a lot of times what happens is misinformation gets out, and people are don't understand sometimes, because you can be streaming for 2 hours, let's say, and there will be people that have been there from the very minute that you started your live, but then there are people that come in and out throughout the live, and so they might catch you saying something and not have gotten the first part of what you were saying, which is, this is just speculation, or this is conjecture, or whatever, this is like a running theory that I've had based on, this information, whatever. And so it makes it very difficult. So I think with particularly open cases that involve children, I think that most of it, I think, comes from a good place. I think people really are invested in wanting a good outcome, the best outcome, which is that the child is returned safely. And I think, but I also think sometimes when that happens, what they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So
yes,
that,
that is so freaking true. And then, we'll get into some of that in a minute.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, so here's a second 2-part question.
Okay.
First, when did you get into true crime, and which was the first case that really grabbed you? So maybe not the first one you got into, but the first one that just like grabbed your soul. And this is one I feel like I know, but maybe I'll be wrong. But I'm so curious. When did you first get into it, and which one first really grabbed your soul?
So I've been watching true crime for a very, very long time. I can remember being 9 and 10 years old, watching 2020 with my mom, watching Dateline with my mom. That she really loved those shows. Oh. And so that's when it first started for me. But I think most people know that the first case that ever just grabbed my soul was the case of the West Memphis 3. And I think a lot of, maybe what people don't know is that it wasn't the teenagers that grabbed my soul. It was the boys. It was the 8-year-old boys. It was Christopher Byers. It was Stevie Branch. It was Michael Moore.
Well,
I
can you
was interested in why in the teenagers, but it was the children who grabbed my soul.
give us just like a quick like who were the victims, who were the perpetrators, and when did it happen?
Okay, so in 1993, May 5th, 3 8-year-old boys, Christopher Byers, Michael Moore, and Stevie Branch, reported missing by their parents at around, the official report is around, 8, somewhere between 8 and 9. And although they'd been out looking for their boys prior to that. May 6th, the boys' bodies were sadly recovered from a drainage ditch that was part of this set of woods called Robin Hood Hills that was off of the neighborhood that the boys lived in. And this was in West Memphis, Arkansas. And about a month later, after actually quite an extensive investigation, 3 teenagers were arrested. 17-year-old Jesse Miskelly Jr., 18-year-old Damian Eccles, and 16-year-old Jason Baldwin. And there were 2 separate trials held. Jason and Damian were tried together. Jesse was tried separately. They were all 3 found guilty and sent to the Arkansas Department of Corrections for the rest of their lives, and Damian received the death penalty. And over the years, through the appeals process and all of that, they settled in 2011 on an Alford plea, which is the people that are Damian, Jason, and Jesse, they maintain their innocence, but also at the same time, they're saying that the state has enough to convict them. Okay, so the judge said, all right, well, I'm going to sentence you to time served and plus some parole. And now what's going on is there's a new system for collecting DNA that requires a very minuscule amount of genetic material to actually extract potential DNA. And
Right.
so Damian filed to have that done, and initially it was rejected. And part of the issue was because MVAC is a consumptive test. It uses all of the material. And Jason and Jesse were not part of the petition, but it's made its way through the Arkansas courts, and the testing is going on. The results are expected, they said, at the beginning of 2025. I don't know what that means because different people have different definitions of the beginning of 2025. For me personally, especially with this, January 1st, 2025 is the beginning of 2025 for me. But,
Right.
It could be
Oh, wow.
anywhere from January probably to like March. So we'll see.
Wow. Okay. That will be very interesting. I can't wait to watch you cover it.
Thank you.
Okay, so if you had to give, like, say, you were asked for advice from somebody who wanted to start a YouTube channel, what advice would you give them?
Be yourself. Be unapologetically yourself.
Ooh.
Other human beings like genuine human beings. Nobody wants to listen to somebody who isn't flawed. Like it used to really bug me when things would go wrong in my lives, like audio issues or it would buffer or whatever. And I used to get really upset, and it would actually give me really bad anxiety. But my chat was always so kind about it, and I realized that I should just embrace the little hiccups in the road, because that is part of life. I do embrace the little hiccups in the road in my everyday life. And I do it now when I stream. So that would be my advice. Be yourself and be honest. If somebody asks you for your opinion, there's a difference between honesty and tact. You can be honest and you can be tactful as well.
Yes.
But that would be, my suggestion. Just be yourself, be honest, and let it go from there.
Okay.
If it's meant to be, it'll be. If it's not, it won't. Just how it is.
Good advice. I love that.
Thank you.
Okay. So what about advice for like subscribers and somebody who's new to YouTube, which it happens a lot. I notice when these cases, like the one I referenced earlier, or any case that gets a lot of attention, Leticia's, Wade, when a case gets a lot of attention, it brings in a lot of new people who maybe just saw it on Facebook and now they're knee deep obsessed, right? And they want to know every detail. So what advice would you give for subscribers?
I would say to subscribers, first and foremost, to remember that the hosts of a YouTube channel are human. So they're flawed individuals. And that you should definitely listen to, as if you're really super interested in a case, listen to everything. Even listen to creators who you may not agree with their stance on the case, but it's good to get like an overall picture of all the things and then make your own decision based on that. And also, I would say, even when you are listening to channels that are, for example, lawyers, real professionals, people who are attorneys who have law degrees, former law enforcement, former FBI. Yes, they are professionals in their field. But when they are talking about an open case, they don't know any more information on that case than the average person, because it is an open case. And it's not like law enforcement says, oh, you're former law enforcement? Well, let me just spill all the tea to you. They don't do that. And they're basing their opinions based on information that all of us have, because that's publicly available, and they're using their professional expertise to base their opinions on. That doesn't make it factual. It's an opinion. It just means that this is what they think is most likely. That's it. That's all. They're still humans too.
Yep.
That's what I would say.
Good. That's good advice, because I get really frustrated with that. It's tough because there are some excellent professionals out here, lawyers, ex-law enforcement, and so on and so forth. But there are some not so great ones too. And that's just
correct.
Human.
It's like, yeah, I mean, YouTube is nothing but human beings. And so when you think about it in those terms, that, all human beings are flawed, and all human beings, when they're talking about anything, it doesn't even matter what the subject is. They're bringing themselves, which means they're bringing all their baggage, which can be good and can be bad, but they're bringing their baggage, their experiences, and their perspective. So even when somebody is, like, a good example would be the West Memphis 3 case. That is there's no gray area. People either believe that the West Memphis 3, Damien, Jason, and Jesse, are guilty, or they believe that they're innocent. There's no in between. But I'm here to tell you that the people that believe that they are innocent and the people that believe that they're guilty are all looking at the same evidence. There's no secret stash of evidence that proves the West Memphis 3 one way or the other, guilty or innocent, that somebody has. It's all the same evidence. It's just that different people view the evidence differently, and they're coming at it from their own perspective. And that's just how it is in every single case.
It's so true. Okay, so let me ask you this. If there was anything you could do differently, would you? What would that be? Or would you say, no, I like the mistakes? If not saying you've made any, I don't know, but just with your experience on YouTube in general.
I think that for me personally, I've already been a part of it was social media before there was social media. Discussion boards were the early days of social media and the early days of, crowdsourcing information. and I had already seen the dark side of that way before I ever came to YouTube. So I already had that already in my brain, and I already learned a huge lesson there, which is you got to be really careful what you say. And it's wrong to flat out accuse somebody. But I already came to YouTube knowing that lesson. So fortunately for me, I didn't make that mistake on YouTube because I already was there. But if I had to do anything differently, I wish that I would have followed through on some of the cases where I started them and then something happened and I just stopped. I wish I would have followed through, and I wish I would have been more consistent about like going live. And I wish that I would have in the beginning, like pushed myself and been harder on myself in that, making myself stick to a schedule and been more consistent. I wish that I would have done that. And I wish that I would have known then what I know now about editing and the level of the volume of music and just the different tricks. It would have given my videos and a little bit more of a polish, because I go back and look and they're like, whoa. But I'm not going to change any of them, because I do think that on the bright side of that, it shows what I have learned. So I'm just going to leave them, because that's my YouTube career, as it were. Just going to leave it. But
yeah, I know the feeling. That's funny, but okay. And that's so interesting about the discussion boards. I find that really cool and interesting. And also like Facebook, a lot of people were on Facebook first doing true crime and stuff. So kind of had learned lessons there. Okay, so now I want to talk about just like case talk. And I think this is going to be so interesting, because for those of you who don't know, like Jenn, you always take a really fair approach, and you're not really big into getting into like conspiracies and stuff. And the very first case I'm going to ask you about has a lot. Well, I think they all kind of do, but the Watts case.
Okay.
What do you think the official narrative is the narrative? And how do you feel about everything you learned in that case? Because I know that you studied it like very intensely, like a lot of us did. Now, like after you're done, what did you learn from it? What do you think walking away? What do you take with you? And do you believe the official narrative?
I do believe the majority of the official narrative. I have always sort of suspected that NK, at the bare minimum, knows a heck of a lot more than she's said. And by that, I mean, I think that if she were really, truly honest with herself and not scared of repercussions, be that legally or morally, that I think that Chris Watts showed a lot of red flags that she hasn't shared yet, as far as what he was going to do. I don't think that she could have ever predicted that it was going to end quite this way, but I think bare minimum, she knew at least Shanann's life was in danger. And what I've walked away with from that is there's always going to be questions in a case for us, that even if we are able to have every single piece of the investigation, all of the documents, every interview, all of the evidence, all the things, we'll still have certain questions. And I think that that's a really hard thing to accept, because we want finality and we want completeness and we want to know everything. But the truth of the matter is, unless a crime is committed and it's been filmed in some capacity, there are certain aspects of a crime that we're never going to know the answers to, because that lies with the killer and their victim. Yeah. And that's really hard to accept. Yes, so that's what I've walked away with.
I mean, I agree with you so much. I think I came to accept that with Leticia's case. Yes. But yeah, you're 100% right. And it is hard to accept that. And I think people, I wish more people understood that, because I think that would maybe calm down some of the rumors and all the kind of stuff that can be really harmful and hurtful to the people
Yeah,
involved.
right. I mean, these are real people. And the thing is, when you're analyzing an interview for example, a missing child's parents have given. Okay. The thing about analyzing those videos is if you put a microscope up to any person, right? You could take, let's say, a model. If you hold a magnifying glass up to a model's skin, you're going to see imperfections. That's because that's how human beings are. But the thing about it is, we don't have a frame of reference from before. We don't know these people from before. We know, and we don't really know these people. We're meeting these people on the worst day of their life when the very worst thing has happened. And so over and over analyzing is problematic. If you are analyzing every single word, every single syllable, what they say, what they don't say, if you do it too much, you're going to find something negative. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to be correct in what you know what I'm saying? It doesn't
Yes.
necessarily mean just because that you find something negative that that they're the guilty party. My
Right.
advice would be more to, what you really want to look for is inconsistencies. And I'm talking about big inconsistencies, not inconsistencies, for example, like they say such and such happened at 1:30, and then they change it down the road to 1:35 or 1:45, because there's things that happen in the interim between those two interviews. For example, they could be talking about it from what they remember, and then they go check their phone and see,
Yeah.
okay, it was actually at this time. That's
Yes.
when the overall theme of a story changes. That's an inconsistency,
Yes.
not, a variant in time. And you have to be willing to, don't like box yourself into a theory from the very beginning. Keep your mind open, let the evidence itself guide you. And when there is no evidence, and I'm talking about evidence coming out from
Yeah.
law enforcement, okay? Anybody can get on the internet and say anything at any time for any reason and no reason at all. So,
So
just be
true.
be flexible, be bendy.
True. Yes, be bendy, but you're so right. Actual evidence, like from police, and hell, opening statements aren't even considered evidence in a
No,
trial.
they're not. They're
So
not.
interviews by a YouTuber, I don't think that's evidence.
It's not. It's not. The thing of it is, social media can be a fantastic help, but it can also be an awful hindrance.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
just
Well,
got to
and
be careful.
think about this. I hate when I hear people say, and I want to talk about Summer and Sebastian. Summer Wells, Sebastian Rogers, two missing kids out of Tennessee. Both of their cases have exploded online. I know you've talked about Sebastian a little. I've covered Summer. I know you've watched a lot of the Summer stuff, so you know what's
I
happening.
do.
Yeah. Um, both of those cases are, exactly what you're talking about. We have seen, oh God, I don't even know. I don't even know where to begin with this, because it's just gotten so bad. And, I hope and pray that they're out there and they come home.
Me
But
too.
I just, what are your thoughts on both of those situations and what social media has done with it? And then kind of where do we go from here? Because I know I've told you, it's almost pushed me out of true crime in general if I hadn't gotten back into this trial. And I know you probably feel the same. It's
Oh,
depressing.
yeah, it is.
God. So yeah, what
It
do you
is. So I think, again, I think that the concern and the level of interest in the case is because it involves children. And fundamentally, I think there are far more good people in the world. I think the good always really outweighs the bad, but the bad gets talked about so much more. And I think that for the most part, the reason that, people are just invested because it's a child, and they don't want that, nobody wants to see anything bad happen to a child. And when a child goes missing, they want that child found. And if something has happened to that child, they want justice for that child. They want that child, whoever hurt that child, to be brought to justice. They want somebody to answer for it and to pay.
Yeah.
And I think that's really at the crux of the situation with Summer Wells and Sebastian Rogers. I think what made their case happen the way that what's gone on social media is when the parents come to social media, when anybody directly, mainly it's the parents, when they come to social media, it gives social media a glimpse into the investigation that they likely wouldn't see. Typically, the parents of a missing child only speak to law enforcement, and the things that they've told law enforcement are only known to law enforcement, and law enforcement, until they're ready, doesn't usually say anything. So I think that's really what's happened with Sebastian's case and with Summer's case. I think where Sebastian's case differs from Summer's case is that in Sebastian's case, we have the biological father, and then we have the biological mother and a stepfather, and not all three are on the same page. And there was already, I think, before they ever came to social media, and even before Sebastian ever went missing, it seems that there was everybody has dysfunction. That's not the word I'm looking for. I think that there was some division. And when it came to social media, I think that social media created an even bigger divide between them.
Oh, God, yeah.
And I'm really worried at this point that the divide between Seth, Chris, and Katie is so huge that I don't know if that can ever be healed. I hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong, because however this case is resolved, whatever the resolution is, at the end of it, the three of them are going to be the ones that have to deal with it. As I would hope a family. I hope that they can lean on each other and support each other. It's really sad. It's really
so
sad.
Freaking sad. And I think, do you think like lack of information plays a role? Because I feel like with both, there's not a whole lot of real information from police. Police just don't, or at least they haven't told us. You think about Summer Wells, and it's been years since we've got an update, and people will ask them, when are we going to get an update? And they'll say, when we have something to update you with. We just simply don't. And I kind of feel like that's with Sebastian. Or do you think that maybe we're getting closer to a break in that one? Or
I think with both of them, I think it's just human nature to fill in gaps, because, and we do it in our everyday life that we don't even realize we're doing it. I mean, there are situations where you might not remember the totality of event, but your brain will try to fill in those gaps for you, and you're not consciously thinking about it. So I think that's part of it. And I think there will be a resolution. I think what people sometimes don't understand, especially if this is the case, that their first true crime case that they've really become completely invested in.
Yeah.
I would encourage you, if this is your first true crime case that you've ever become really invested in, to go back and watch a trial of a case that you were interested in, but maybe not as invested in. And the reason I say that is because during a trial, not only will you get a timeline of events of what actually happened, but you also get of the crime, but you also get a timeline of events of the investigation. And you will, you learn how different procedures in an investigation take different levels of time, different lengths of time. And sometimes when it seems like nothing is going on, everything is going on. The Quentin Simon case comes to mind. We all were under the assumption, a lot of us, that that nothing was really happening in the investigation aside from them being out at the landfill, right? But when we watched Leonie's trial, so many things were going on simultaneously to that recovery effort and search. So I think that's super important. And the more like devices are involved, gaming systems, stuff like that, consoles, the longer it takes.
Oh, yeah.
Because different companies have different methods of responding to a search warrant. And, you know, so there's a lot of variables. So I know it's hard. And believe me, patience for me is very difficult. That's why I like streaming services. I don't like to wait a week from one episode to the next. Like, that's too much for me. So I will, even if I know a new show has come out and I really, really want to watch it, I will wait until every single episode is available before I sit down, because I know that I have zero patience. How I have developed patience in true crime, I will never know. Probably because there's no other choice.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
But yeah, like, it reminds me of Leticia. We know that, hell, we can see Al, and there were some answers in that case. She was pretty quickly arrested. It wasn't that long that things started happening, but still, social media was blaming Al. We had neighbors coming out and doing interviews saying they saw all these different things, that then you get to the trial and none of it's true.
Right.
And it's like
neighbors
all this
actually trying to, like, you know, play FBI for a second, you know, and try to catch Leticia in some, you know, BS, but then still going on social media and act. And then when we find out all of it, we're like, wait, what? You know what I'm saying? That's why I tell people, that's why I would urge all subscribers, exercise caution. Seriously, because these are real people.
Yeah. And what if you're wrong? You know, what if you're right? That's fine. But also, what if you're wrong?
That's the biggest thing. See, for me, I've not accused any of the parents of this crime. And guess what? If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, right?
Yep.
But I haven't caused harm by being wrong.
Exactly.
If you would go around and make outright accusations and you're wrong, you have caused harm. Yeah. That's the difference. So in my opinion, anyway.
And it's all this fuss over, you know, nothing, stuff that might not even be true at all.
Exactly.
It's like we saw with Al. So I want to talk to you about Leticia's case a little bit, and like the process of us going through the calls and the documents, and just, oh my gosh, what an experience. I have enjoyed it so much. And especially, you know, we had some bumps at first, and we didn't really have our ways worked out of doing it, but it seemed like once it was just you and I, we just fit together perfectly with it. It was never a problem. We never had any issues. It was go with the flow, easy, just learning about her and listening to the calls. And it just, I don't know. I have enjoyed it so much, Jen. I just got to say that.
Me too. Thank you also. And I've enjoyed doing it with you too. Like, it's easy with you, Allie. Like, we just say, okay, well, you know, we have an idea about when we want to, like, start these new calls or whatever. And if something comes up on either side, right, in either of our lives, we just text each other and are like, hey, listen, such and such came up. And both of us are like, oh, okay, no worries. I'll figure out something else, or I'll do something else. Just do it when you can, or whatever. It's super, and it's fun. Like, I love nothing better than watching the video visits when Allie is running the stream, because Allie's pause game is Super good.
Oh my
And we
God.
have frozen Amy and Leticia in some real doozies. So
Um, oh my gosh. Yeah, I want to get back to that. Maybe we can have, maybe we've got some things we're thinking about doing, you guys, and we'll keep you posted on that. But I wish the video visits we hadn't went over are better quality, because they are so interesting to freaking watch, man.
yes, I mean, I still have them, and maybe we can take like a look at them and maybe
Yeah.
just I don't know, figure something out, because some of the stuff that's in some of these video visits as has humor to it. Like the situation overall, obviously there is nothing humorous at all about what she did to Gannon, and that's not
Right.
what we're laughing at. But
No.
I want people to understand that. But the things that come out of Letitia's mouth and
God, she's
Amy's
dumb.
mouth,
Oh,
and
God.
then
And
their
now
mouths
Brenda's-
together, and then Aunt Brenda. I mean, who calls up their niece to complain about their great niece leaving a bra in the back of in the back seat of their car? Like ain't B? Why's that got, why's that got a bee in your bonnet? Like, calm down. She's a teenager. It's a
No.
bra. You know?
Oh my God. I'm with you though. I feel like it's almost two separate investigations we've done, because we kind of like covered the
Yes.
trials together, looked at the case files. But then separate from that has been like this psychological Leticia alone, where we rarely even speak about the case. We actually really, honestly, if you guys knew, we try not to, because we don't want to drag that into all of her bullshit all the time.
Right.
It's a separate thing.
It is a separate thing. And if you think about it, she's suing the jails. Well, she's suing El Paso County, and she's suing Kansas, the prison. Okay. So she makes quite a few allegations and accusations in those calls and video visits from pre-trial. So
She does. Well, speaking of that, okay, what about like one of the moments that I just still can't get over that we learned from that? I can't wait to get an update, because there are some things that are due very soon. So we should get an update on the lawsuit soon.
I can't wait.
The freaking sweatpants, Jen. Like, oh my God, to know that she sold a pair of her raggedy ass sweatpants for $200.
That weren't even hers. They're jail property. So she's also a thief. Trash ass.
Oh my God. It has been such a journey. So I definitely think we should continue to explore it until we get this is the way I look at it. We're actually going through real information,
Right.
Stuff from FOIA requests that we get back and then we dissect together. As long as there's stuff to go through, I don't see a problem looking at it. It is fascinating to see like what was happening right before the trial. And we're actually not far on our timeline from when that happens.
Right.
Where
And
we're
also,
at calls.
I'd like to defend Allie and I, because there has been an allegation. It's an old allegation, but I want to address it because I think it's important. That Al Stauch asked Allie and I to stop. Okay. Nothing could be further from the truth. First of all, he was referencing a very specific incident. We all know about it. It's regarding the autopsy photos. He couldn't possibly have been telling Allie and I to stop, because when that happened, when he came out and said what he said, we hadn't even requested a document, a jail report, let alone a phone call from jail. Okay. So he wasn't talking to us. I just want to clear that up. We would never, if Landon and Al came out after we had gotten those things and said something, Allie and I definitely would have stopped, because we're not, out of respect, period. That's it. That's all. Just want to clear that up for the last time. I'm never mentioning it again.
No, but you're right. Like, we wouldn't. And honestly, like, just from before, I think that they understand people are going to talk about the case. And as a matter of fact, I know, some of it, like, look at the murals that were posted and stuff like that. Some of the stuff that's been talked about and that's happened after has been really positive.
Yeah.
I don't think they have expectations of that, like people never talking about the case. They just wanted people to respect their baby.
Right.
You know, don't show pictures of his autopsy, things like that. And that's what that was about.
Right.
You know? So, oh, it's frustrating.
It is frustrating.
Okay, so let me see. My next one I wanted to ask you about, oh yeah, Leilani. We also covered that together. How do you feel like, because I just made a hot takes video where I was comparing the sentencing of Sarah Boone, which I know how you feel about her, and most of our chat from watching with you, like they really dislike Sarah and Leilani. But, you know, Leilani in 40 years has the possibility of parole. Sarah does not ever. In Florida, life is life. So I'm curious on both of those, actually, because those are both recent convictions. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like it's just? Do you feel like the punishment is just? And then Sarah, with her. Well, let's start with Leilani, because I have a point with Sarah that I want to ask you about. So with Leilani, how do you feel about her punishment?
Hate her. I think that her punishment is poppycock, if I'm, you know, frankly, because I understand taking a defendant's age at the time of the crime into account. And yes, she was young. And there is, I believe that there are people that can be redeemed. I don't think that Leilani is one of them, because it's not just about her crime. It's about what she was doing in jail and rehab during all of it.
Yeah.
Prior to trial. And her behavior is not indicative of somebody who has genuine remorse. Anytime she even spoke or at the trial, her behavior at the trial is not indicative to me of somebody who regrets what they did. She seems like she regrets that she got caught.
Yes.
She's only saying, I wish I wouldn't have done what I did because she got caught. That's it. It's not like because she misses Quentin or, you know, even beyond that, the far-reaching consequences that her other children are going to suffer from due to her choices.
Yeah.
She doesn't care.
It's so frustrating with her. Well, see, this is my thing, and this is why I wanted to keep Sarah separate, because with Sarah, I think she's, you know, awful as well. Don't get me wrong, but also it's like, it's hard because Leilani hurt this little child, and Sarah, right. And we know that they had like a back and forth. It seemed like they had a violent relationship with the pictures they showed at court and stuff. And there was, you know, he had to have gotten in on his own, I would think. I don't know, but it's like, just, I think she deserves what they both deserve life, you know, but to see one of them get life and never get out, and then Leilani, it frustrates me, because with Sarah, like, how do you feel about that with Sarah and the accusations of abuse and stuff like that she made about him?
I think that Sarah and George had a very, very toxic relationship. I think that they were both abusive to one another in different ways. I think that Sarah was physically abusive to George. I think she was emotionally abusive to George. I think I do have some questions about some of George's arrests for domestic violence, particularly because at the trial they showed the last time that George was arrested for domestic violence, and the entire exchange between George and the police officer, where the police officer is telling him, listen, I'm trying to help you. Tell me what happened. I think that the officers had long suspected that Sarah wasn't being honest, but if George was not willing to tell the story, to tell what happened and protect Sarah, there wasn't anything they could do about it. A lot of seeing those videos that Sarah recorded herself, that she references in her interrogation video as evidence of George's abuse. Seeing those videos really changed my mind about a lot of things. Sarah, when Mr. Owens was putting up those pictures of Sarah, they look horrific, right? But then watching those videos, any sympathy that I had for Sarah kind of went out the window, because I actually think something else was going on. And her letter, her allocution letter, sealed that even further for me.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, because for me, I was watching Leilani's and I didn't follow it like that. I watched with you just to support you, but didn't.
Oh, I appreciate that, babe.
So I would watch a lot of it, but not as much as you did. You know what I mean?
No.
There's no way at all.
No, I was super invested in Sarah Boone. Probably too much, if you want to know the truth. Hey, put that down in the regrets column.
Okay. But honestly, you did an excellent job with it. I was really proud of your coverage.
Oh, thank you. I like what you're doing with Wade. You're doing a really good job covering his trial. I'm proud of you. You're doing a good job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm just timestamp those videos and stuff, which is taking me a little, it's not take that long, but it's just a little
tedious.
Yeah. Okay. So quick question about Adam Montgomery. Do you think that he will ever cooperate and help to find that baby, Harmony?
I think maybe he might, if once all of his appeals are exhausted. However, I only feel like that might happen. Like there's maybe a 6% chance of that happening. I think that Adam Montgomery is a monster. And I think that he's not scared that people will see him for what kind of monster he truly is. He's scared for the people in prison to see what kind of monster he truly is.
Do you think he was a monster before, or do you think like the drugs and the circumstances like all were part of it? And do you think that he's still that vicious now? Just like a guess, out of curiosity.
I think that Adam probably had a propensity towards violence before his addiction. I think that his addiction was like a flavor enhancer to the personality he already had. And I do think that Adam will likely continue to be violent, because the fact that he didn't show up to the trial at all beyond jury selection. See, when you really want to get clean and live right, you have to acknowledge the things that you did as an addict, and you have to take accountability for that, no matter how hard it is.
Yeah.
And the fact that he couldn't sit in that courtroom and take any level of accountability, even for what he already agreed that he did, to me, doesn't show true remorse. True remorse, when you really regret something that you did, you take accountability for every part of it, every single thing that you did. And you can't correct the behavior until you acknowledge the behavior. To me, anyway.
No, you're right. That's true.
Like an apology to me is a contract. It's like you're saying, I understand and I acknowledge what I did. And the contract comes in when and you're saying, when you apologize, it's like saying, I won't do it again. I'm going to try my very best. Obviously, nobody can predict the future, but you're going to make a conscious effort not to repeat the hurt that you caused to an individual or individuals again.
Right.
So it's,
it's more than just I'm sorry. It's
right. Yeah. When you're an adult, when you're a kid, that's how we teach children to apologize, when they do something, because that's part of taking accountability and recognizing what you did was not wrong, but it also hurt somebody else.
Yeah. You're so right. I think a lot of it goes back to how these folks were even their childhood,
Yes.
how they were parented. Okay, so I want to wrap this up at like the hour mark because I have to go to the kids' school and have to leave in like 10 minutes. So it'll be
Perfect.
But I have a couple quick questions for you
Okay.
that I think will be fun and interesting. So, what's your all-time favorite song? Off the top of your head, the first one that comes to mind.
The Cure, In Between Days.
Ooh, okay. I'll have to look that up. I don't think I've ever heard that. Interesting. Okay. Coke or Pepsi?
Pepsi.
Do you like your tacos hard or soft?
Hard.
Okay. TikToks or YouTube shorts?
TikToks.
Okay. Do you like your gummies sour or sweet?
Sweet.
Okay. McDonald's or Wendy's?
McDonald's.
And the last one, 5-hour energy or coffee?
5 hour. Yes. The answer is yes to that question. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then my true actual last question was, what are your favorite channels? Not any friends channels, no channels that you personally know at all. Like outside of that, favorite YouTube channels.
I like to watch The Lawyer You Know, and I like to watch Dreading True Crime.
Ooh, I never heard of that one. I'll have to look that up, but I definitely heard of The Lawyer. I would like to know. No, just kidding.
Yeah, he's funny. See, here's the thing about him. I like him because he's funny. He cracks jokes at the appropriate time. You gotta laugh at life. I'm telling you guys, you really gotta just take a step back and laugh at life. But the way that he explains the law is easy for everybody to understand, but he also is very, very quick to point out his limits when it comes to a certain motion or a judge's ruling, or anytime he's explaining something that's occurred either pre-trial or during trial, he'll say, I don't have a lot of experience with this. And I appreciate that because it's my personal opinion. I'm going to leave you with this. Smart people know what they don't know.
Yes. Oh God, yes. That is so true. I'm so glad we did this. I feel like this has been one of the best ones, and just with really amazing, insightful answers. So thank you so much for being here. Just stay on for a second. I'm going to end it, and then I'll end the recording. Okay.
Well, thank you for having me, babe. I appreciate it so much. I hope your audience got a little something out of it, and I think learned a little more about Jenn Bindi Lou. I'm telling you, I'm not going to ever open up too much and this is not for me. This is for y'all. You don't want in this brain. I'm telling you, it's very cluttered. It's very messy, and nobody understands my filing system. You don't want up in here.
No, I think it was awesome. And yeah, if you guys have not subscribed, I think most of my channel also goes over there, but also there's new people that have been coming in with Wade and with other stuff. If you haven't subscribed, please go check Jenn out. I'm going to link her in the description, and I'll be dropping it in the chat as we go along. We could use more people that talk about true crime with common sense, and you are definitely one of those people, and I value that in you. I really appreciate that. So,
well, thank you, babe, and just I appreciate that very much. We also need people like you who discuss true crime with empathy and sympathy and compassion. And I think sometimes when I talk about true crime, I have to remove my own emotion from it. Doesn't mean I don't feel it. It's just that, like I said, there's a lot going on up in this brain, like on all the time, like it's never off. And so if I get too emotional, then I'll forget the point that I was trying to make. But I think there should be far more people who worry about the consequences of what comes out of their mouth, and really take Peter Parker's uncle at what he said. With great power comes great responsibility.
That is so absolutely true. And we have a great responsibility, even just discussing another human being's absolute worst moment in their life. But thank you, Jenn. I appreciate that, because I don't know. I guess like for me, I always instantly, I notice with this trial, I do it with the investigators, with just everyone. I always put myself in the shoes of like whoever's speaking or try to. It's hard to do with I don't think I've been able to do that as much with like the killers. You can't, I think that's part of
That's
it.
hard.
You want to get in the brain, but yeah, so anyways, I appreciate
the fact that you're able to do that, Allie, is amazing, because look, when we were covering Leticia, I was like, man, Dr. Lewis is up here telling big fat lies. What she do? I was super, fixed on this opinion I had of Dr. Lewis, and Allie would be like, but Jenn, don't you think maybe? And I would be like, okay, because I just feel like I remember she has like an impressive resume, and it just didn't come through in her. I wasn't going to believe that Leticia had dissociative identity disorder regardless. Okay.
Yeah.
But I wanted I wanted Dr. Lewis's professionalism and expertise. I wanted to hear it. And we just really didn't get to, because of all the, side issues that were going on, documents and purses, phones going off, all the things, you guys were there, what happened. She was just too much.
Smoking in the stairwell. I truly believe that she's just elderly at this point, and
I
was trying to earn a little bit of extra money, so she took the case, but I don't think she should have. But I think that we shouldn't allow it to ruin like our idea of the rest of her work necessarily, because she is elderly. You know what I mean? And
she is, and that's my the things that I was saying came out of frustration, because I was disappointed that we didn't get to see Dr. Lewis in her prime.
Yeah.
She's never been a fantastic witness in trials. Some people are just not good at testifying, and it's not a negative, it's just who they are. And but I was frustrated, and I was bummed and angry that the last case that she took and was Leticia's.
Yeah.
Of all the people.
I wonder how she feels about it now.
She's probably like we all feel. Hate her.
She thinks she's been listening to the calls.
Yeah, she's probably like, no, I'm not. No, Tisha Lynn, don't call me. I can't help you. Ain't nothing wrong with you.
Goodness. All right.
Hell no, I'm not speaking to Maria. Maria is not real. She doesn't exist. You don't have DID. The end. That's probably how she really feels.
Done with Maria. All right. Well, thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Jenn. I appreciate you so much. And yeah, I'll see you on the other side of this when I hit end. And then you guys in the chat, I'll see you sometime soon. And have a great night. Bye.
Bye.